I recently was sent an article that was titled, "I Don't Believe in Priests." And at first, I was a little frustrated, thinking that somebody had sent me an article that was just going to aggravate me. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to read it, so that way I can at least understand it and be able to refute it. Well, as I began to read it, I was very surprised as to what it contained. It was not there to be a negative view of priests, but it stressed a very important point that all of us need to come and embrace in our own lives. Because this article was an experience that a priest had had while he was getting his oil changed. As he was sitting there waiting for his car to be ready, a couple across the room began chatting to each other, looking at him, chatting to each other, looking at him. And as a priest, from my own personal experiences, that's usually a warning sign that you should find the exit as soon as you can, because they're about to come and talk to you, probably about something that's just going to aggravate. Well, the priest was unable to get to the exit quick enough, and lo and behold, the couple came over and began to chat with him. And of course, they sat right next to him, so he couldn't really ignore him. And the woman began with this phrase, "You know what? I don't believe in priests." And having an idea of where he's going with this, but being patient, he allowed them to say what they wanted to. And it turns out that both of them were former Catholics who had left the Catholic faith to practice another Christian faith for two different reasons, both of which were what they termed negative experiences of a priest. The wife had said that her reason for leaving was because the music at Mass was very old and dreary, and she wanted something a little more uplifting. And since the priest had chosen the music, she felt that she had to leave. And the husband soon followed after her because he said that the priest was not a very good preacher. So he wanted to go somewhere else and find somebody who could preach better. And I know that if you were like me, you're probably thinking to yourself, those are very superficial reasons for leaving the Catholic faith, right? But instead of saying that, after listening to them speak, he answered in a way that kind of surprised them. He said, "You know what? I don't believe in priests either." And of course, the couple is ready for an argument, and the way that he responded silenced them. And so the priest was able to go on. And he goes on to say that no one should ever base their faith in a person, even if that person is a priest. Because the priest is simply a man, and one that will always fall short of the often unrealistic expectations that people place upon them. He goes on to tell them that one's faith must always be placed in Christ. And if one's faith is in Christ, superficial reasons and maybe even serious reasons for not liking a priest will not cause someone to leave the Catholic faith. And today's gospel, in a very real way, highlights an important reality. Because Jesus takes his apostles, his closest apostles, Peter, James, and John, up the mountain to show them a very important truth. And as they get to the top of the mountain, he is transfigured, a word that literally means to change in appearance. And the answer to why Christ did this for them is the same as the ending to that article. Because by this point in his ministry, the apostles had already seen Jesus perform many miraculous deeds. We even had the great ascent of faith of Peter, in which he says, "You are the Christ." But even with that, they still are missing the deeper truth of who Jesus is. And yes, in a very literal way, there is more to Christ than meets the eye. And so Jesus transfigures himself to reveal the deeper truth of who he is to them, and to show them that they are not simply trusting in a fallen man, but in God himself. That the person whom they have been the disciple of for the last few years is the second person of the Holy Trinity, who assumed their own human nature and came to save the people Israel and the whole world. And what a profound revelation, because by doing this, Jesus is in a very real way giving them the green light. Look, you can trust in me completely because I am God. You are not trusting in a fallen, finite man, but in Jesus Christ, the second person of the Holy Trinity. And that, my brothers and sisters, is something that each of us must take to heart this day. Because our faith can never be based in the quality of music or in the quality of preaching or whether or not the priest smiles enough for you. Our faith is founded in Jesus Christ. And only by allowing that to happen does our faith get that strong foundation that cannot be taken away as things happen in the world. A foundation that cannot be shaken by even the most sad or horrible revelations about priests or other people in the Catholic Church. And thus you and I are called, put our trust in Christ, in God himself, who is perfect, who loves perfectly, and not in anyone finite. And by doing so, our faith will find that sure and solid foundation that can never be lost by a negative experience of a human being.